Ready? Okay. Ready? Okay. Good evening, gentlemen. It's a little strange setup, but you know the circumstances that we had to deal with here. So if you would stand, we'll pledge allegiance to the flag and we'll get the meeting started. Thank you.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Thank you. First item is the public input period, which is reserved for anything that's not on the agenda, written. Anyone have anything they would like to ask other than what's printed? Hearing none, we'll move on. This is the minutes from the regular meeting of April 13th. They're in front of us. And I have a motion, we'd like to entertain a motion to accept them, correct them, and pass them on to the secretary.
Motion to approve from Patterson.
Okay. Supervisor Patterson made the motion to accept the minutes as given. I hear a second.
Second.
Supervisor Beers made the second. All those, any other discussion before the vote? All those in favor of accepting the minutes as given as printed signify by saying aye. Aye. Okay, and Randy's not with us, so there's 4 in favor and no, well, that's it. 4. By the way, Supervisor Patterson is not with us. There's 2 other supervisors. Supervisor Moyer, we can't get a hold of. He may join us later, but Supervisor Patterson is at home doing his due diligence on the phone, okay? Next storm is the planning matters, which is the stormwater management plan for Lloyd King of the Barn at 501 Strasburg Pike.
Whichever of you would like to speak on this,
Yeah.
step up.
Good evening.
Good evening. The usual setup. We have it in the borough too, but
Yeah.
I'm Len Ferber, Real Estate in Strasburg. I'm just here to assist Lloyd and them on this process. I think they have filed all the paperwork that they have. I think he's looking to put his living quarters above the barn until he can build a house. And I think they've worked very closely with Amanda here. She's done a very excellent job in getting all the documents and helping getting all the documents together. And I think he had to get a letter of credit, and I think they were working on that today. So the rest is up to you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you. Very easy, Barry.
Well, you did sketch in the house where the house will sit at a later date. I appreciate that. And I didn't see it at home when I was looking over these prints, but you do have a paved driveway going back 20 feet off the right of way, so I caught that this evening. And we do have some letters here with the review from ELA as well. And you have those letters in front of you from ELA, from the township engineer? No.
I don't have.
You,
I
okay.
have them, Eli. Do you have a copy of them? No. We've been dealing mostly with Bert, their consultant,
Yeah, I think
so
he should have
he's
sent them
not
in, right?
able to be here tonight.
Okay.
George Smith, though, is on the phone as well, so he's been our direct engineer with ELA.
Okay. Well, anybody have any questions for this? This does have a an escrow setback of 39,600, plus all the comments from ELA are on here as well. I take it he has no questions on the comments, whoever's representing.
He's fine with it.
He's okay, all right.
I have no comments,
Go ahead.
questions.
You do?
I do not.
You do not. Okay. Do we have a motion at that point to approve the stormwater management plan? He does not need to come back to us for the barn. The house, yes, but not the barn. And the house is not imminent at this point.
Right.
Okay. How far away are you from Smucker's Roofing, you know?
Well, you up the road or over across the field? You up the road from Snooker Roofing?
Up the road or the, welding business.
Yeah, right where it's, the new Smucker
So
Welding is gonna
what will be coming in
Right.
will be on the same parcel.
be. Okay,
So it'll be, the Smucker portion is farther south. This is on the northern
Yeah.
portion
The
of
north
that.
side of the property.
I looked on the drawing and Smucker Welding wasn't there yet, but obviously it's brand new. And I don't,
It
is
will be
Smucker
coming
Roofing
in.
on there? I didn't,
Roofing is not
Sort
part
of
of
moving
it,
has
no.
nothing to do with it. They're on the other side.
it's on the other side of the road, but some of the properties are listed there.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So I hear a motion from anyone.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to approve the Lloyd King Barn and Residence Stormwater Management Plan as presented, conditioned upon compliance with the Township Engineer Letter dated April 29th, 2020, and the staff memo dated May 11th, 2020. I'll further move that we approve the improvement guarantee in the amount of $39,600 as recommended by the Township Engineer in a letter dated April 29th, 2020.
Thank you. And do I hear a second?
Second.
Supervisor Beers made the motion to accept as given, and Supervisor Brennan made the second. Any other discussion from the board? All those in favor of the stormwater management plan for the Lloyd King Barn at 501 Strasburg Pike signify by saying aye. Aye. Okay. Opposed? Motion carries 4-0 in favor. Okay?
Thank you.
You're right. Thank you.
Well done. You're done.
That was the quickest thing you did with this township, wasn't it?
So you guys work faster than we do in Strasburg. Thank you.
You're welcome. Sketch plan for the Snyder Funeral Home. They're still out in the lobby.
Sorry.
Well, okay. Thank you.
It did seem too fast.
I mean, it's
There's nothing
pretty
there.
straightforward.
Yeah.
Don't forget the mics.
Pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
So Randy's missing, huh?
Yeah, he just called, but I've got.
Hello there. How's everyone? Hello.
Good evening, gentlemen.
Hello there.
You're up already.
All right.
You've actually been introduced, but that's okay. This is the sketch plan for Snyder Funeral Home, and it's at 2421 Willow Street, Pike. We don't need to take any action. We just need to take a look at what you're presenting, and we'll move on from there. Thank you.
Hi,
Bye.
my name's Riley Notel. I'm a real estate attorney at Barley Snyder. Thanks again for having us in this evening. I have with me Chip Snyder and Chad Snyder with Snyder Funeral Home, who will give a brief presentation about the funeral home business that they're operating. And John Hershey with RGS Associates, who will review a bit about the site plan and the proposed developments. And then I'll give a brief discussion about why we're here tonight. Go ahead, Chad.
You can move that. Is that the mic's on, right?
Yes.
You can just move it a
Can I
little
move my
closer.
mask down?
You can, yes.
I just feel I feel very
It's
awkward.
okay. You're more than 8 feet away anyway.
That's an Eagles mask. We prefer you remove it.
Well, my name's Chad Snyder. Hello, everybody. And thank you for having us here this evening during this pandemic. And we're quite honored, actually, and excited to present this to you this evening, as we've been working on it for, I would say, about 4 or 5 years now. And we feel we have found the appropriate property in Willow Street to,
He's having trouble hearing.
okay.
Can we, yeah, there you go.
Is that on?
Is it?
That doesn't project into the room.
Okay.
It's
I can
strictly
stand,
for
I think
that.
I'll talk a little louder.
We can get a regular one on it.
Okay.
Look at that, Jeff, you get both mics.
There we go. Thank you.
Good evening again. My name's Chad Snyder, and I'm the third generation in our family business at Charles Snyder Funeral Homes.
you're on your own here, you know, you.
All right.
Thank you.
Our family has been searching for the appropriate property in Willow Street for a handful of years now. And we feel we have located the right property to be able to serve the Willow Street and surrounding community. Currently, as everybody knows, there is no funeral home in this specific community. Our family has been in the funeral service business since 1947. My grandfather started the funeral home in Lancaster City. We have 5 locations now. We most recently acquired the Bachman Funeral Home in Strasburg, which is here in this township, and we're successfully running that over the past 11 months. And that's coming up on a year next month, which we can't believe. And so some facts of our progress so far, and some of the history of our search and finding the right property. One, it has always been one of my father, Chip's, dreams to be able to provide a funeral service footprint, rooftop in the Willow Street community. As I mentioned earlier, there is no funeral home in Willow Street. With that, over the past several years, we have been looking at different properties, and we were able to acquire the 2421 Willow Street Pike, and then also 2 acres of the Burkholder Farm, right next door, neighboring that property. And we've done some significant research and invested in significant resources with, we feel, the right partners such as Barley Snyder, who helped us with our cremation addition to our Lidditz Pike location 10 years ago, and I'll get into that in a moment. RGS was also part of that project. Benchmark Construction was part of that project, and we are all going to be using some of these same, I'll say, local partners and vendors. And then we are working with Cox Evans Architects in designing the Willow Street property. So we feel we have partnered with the right professionals and professionals that you all are familiar with, and that the community is also familiar with. I'd like to also take a step back with our history of our business. As I mentioned, my grandfather started the funeral home in Lancaster City. We then added a second location in Millersville in the 80s. My dad led that project. And then he also has built, we still are the only funeral home in the county that has built a funeral home from the ground up. So we are very familiar with that. He did that in the late 90s, and we opened the door there on 3110 Lidditz Pike across from Brethren Village in 2000. And actually this year marks the 20th anniversary of that location.
You
Which,
make me feel old, guy. I remember.
I know. And I was graduating high school that year. So that tells you how old I am, 38. And so we're actually going through a major renovation of that location right now as we speak, and giving it a facelift. And then we acquired a 4th location in 2015 in the borough of Lidditz, the SPAC Funeral Home. And then just last year, I mentioned the Bachman Funeral Home. So we do have a great track record of growing our family business, serving the communities well. With the Willow Street project that we're looking at proposing and talking to you this evening, it does include cremation equipment. And so the reason why that's so important to us and to the community is because all of you are asking for that. And so is the community at large. So we feel it's important to be able to deliver that on a whole nother standard than most of the other area funeral homes. And what that means is by having that cremation equipment on site in our facility means we can control every measure, every step, and we can tell families that their loved ones never leave our care. We have successfully done that now the past 10 years at our Manhattan Township location. And that was the same project that RGS and Barley Center helped us achieve that goal. And so that has been successfully operated without any glitches. And it's in a very similar setting, right along a main thoroughfare on Liz Pike and heavily trafficked Manhattan Township, across from Brethren Village. They gave us the blessing as well when we were proposing this 10, 12 years ago. So they were a community partner as well as some of the other neighboring businesses that surround us. We also have residential neighborhoods behind our funeral home Liz Pike. It's actually similar to how this location is set up at 2421 Willow Street Pike. Some other, I'll just say fun facts about what we're doing is my grandmother and grandfather on my mother's side happened to live in the neighborhood directly behind. So it's kind of coming full circle on being able to deliver a new business to the community. And then both my grandmothers happen to also reside at Willow Valley, which is just down the street. We've been asked as not only funeral directors to Chip and I, but also business owners by Willow Street residents, day in and day out. When do you open up a funeral home? When can we be able to come to you locally on a different local level? And so we have put a lot of time and resources into trying to achieve that objective, and I think we're doing it quite well, and we want to be able to share that vision with you guys tonight. So I just wanted to thank you personally on inviting us here this evening. Is there anything that I'm leaving out? Okay. I think you'll be quite pleased with the work we've done so far. We've taken a lot of time and detail into the design. I've traveled around the country visiting with some other professionals that are in our industry, and I've been able to take some of their design factors into this to be able to create a beautiful setting and be able to carry our family legacy into the Willow Street area. Thank you. Is there any questions while I'm standing here?
You're actually tearing down the building that's there and reconstructing it from scratch?
That is correct, sir.
Okay. Plus adding on acreage?
Yes.
Okay, all right.
We feel to do it the right way, we want to do it the right way the first time. And we feel to be able to have that almost 3-acre footprint is what you truly need for parking, for the size of the building, for the amenities that we offer at our other area funeral homes. And so yes, we would be starting from scratch.
Is this larger than any of the other ones, about the same size, or what's it compared with?
It's very similar in size to our Liz Pike location.
Okay.
But to the original footprint of our Liz Pike location,
And then
which is
You
about 13.
expanded that then?
We did, yeah. And so it's about 13,000 square feet is what we're looking at.
Okay. All right.
So
Thank you. Great, nice
Thank
presentation.
you.
You have some history from your family here.
We do. Thank you very much.
Can I jump in here quickly
Yes.
and just remind the board that I am monitoring my email for any questions that might come through from the public, so I will bring this to your attention.
Jump in when you have them. Okay.
I'm watching.
Good evening.
Good evening, I'm John Hershey from RGS Associates.
We're not related, right?
As far as I know, we're not.
Okay, I just wanted to.
Did you grow up here in West Lafayette?
Most of my life, some of it, not all of it, but yeah. Most of my relatives are Paradise, Gordonville.
Great. Excellent. For purposes of orientation, Willow Street Pike is here along the bottom of the image. House of Pizza, another important local landmark, is located right here. And the building that you mentioned, Mr. Hershey, is located here approximately where the label lot 1 is on this graphic. 2421 Willow Street Pike, as it is today, is outlined here in this orange line. The area just to the north of that is owned by PPL. It's where the electric transformer is located. There's a long-term lease on that site for the use of its parking. And the Snyders will continue that lease. So some of the parking serving their facility is technically on the adjoining lot. But other than some restriping, there aren't any proposed changes to the PPL property. Chad mentioned the acquisition of 2 additional acres. That 2 acres of Burkholder or Mylan Holdings, their legal entity, is located here. That allows for the accommodation of the building of the size that the Snyders need to serve the local community, shown here in this darker tan color. Currently, there are 2 points of access off of Willow Street Pike, one coming into the PPL lot here, another one approximately here. The intent is to close this existing access and create a new access that's aligned with the connector between southbound 222 and northbound 222 to facilitate that sort of maneuver. We've submitted that idea to PennDOT, but because of the pandemic, we've not yet had our initial scoping meeting with them. However, we're getting a favorable response thus far. Once staff and visitors enter the site, they then can circulate around the building. There'll be a covered drop-off here in the front, some accessible parking spaces. They can circulate onto the PPL site and back to the majority of the parking, which is tucked behind the building in this location back here. All the service functions will happen in this general area. This is the garage where the hearses will be parked. Flower deliveries and so forth will come in and out of this area. There are 2 outdoor spaces. This light tan space is intended for guests to sort of spill out of the main gathering space into sort of an outdoor courtyard setting. And this green space over here on the north side of the building will be primarily for staff to utilize. We're not showing any proposed plantings on this very early sketch plan, but plantings will sort of help define that. In addition, they'll define the required 30-foot planted buffer adjacent to our neighbors in the residential community off of Tracy Court. So this is that 30-foot buffer requirement. We're staying out of that clearly with the proposed parking and circulation. Trash pickup will continue approximately where it does today in this location. And then all this is connected with a walkway system that surrounds and connects the various site amenities. Stormwater will be handled primarily through underground facilities located here. The whole site slopes from high to low down at Willow Street Pike. We'll do some underground stormwater below this parking area, and then there'll be some more stormwater management here in the front part of the site. So I look forward to answering any questions that you all might have.
Gentlemen, Bob, do you have any questions too?
No questions.
I mean, I think it looks great. I'm excited that you're considering our community for this, to bring your business here. Just in real quick look, the first thing that pops into my head is just, I would caution you to be cognizant of your parking lot lights and any spillage that would go into the Tracy Court neighborhood, because you are pretty close to the back of those residential communities. I know you got the buffer there, but just something to think about. And I know you're going to think about it as you go forward.
Yeah, we'll be submitting a lighting plan. We've teamed with Bryn Jack Lighting Studio out of Harrisburg, a firm that I've worked with since the 90s, to design the lighting to make sure that it's directed only where it needs to go, that we have the right quantity of lighting and the right quality of lighting. We'll be very cognizant of that. We do, however, I should mention, we do anticipate some light spillage across this technical boundary between the Snyder's property and the leased parking on the PPL site to make sure that those spaces are safely illuminated, because I don't think there's any lighting there today.
Right.
But yes, we'll shield the neighbors off of Tracy Court.
You have a sketch plan of what the building will look like or propose it at this point?
We have a very early concept, as Chad mentioned. We're working with Cox Evans Architects. This is the front elevation of the building, showing some masonry components. This is the covered porte cochere and the main entrance. So there are some traditional building materials, common to West Lancaster Township, stone, siding, and so forth. It's a 1.5-story structure, very traditional in its architectural massing and forms and materials.
Okay, this is a 1.5 stories.
Yes.
Okay. What will be on the second floor, if I can?
Are you able to speak to that?
We would be looking into having some future employee offices and storage.
Okay, where's the crematorium gonna be located? Where will that be located?
So if you were looking at that front of the property right there, I can show you in both images. It would be on the left side, far left side of that building, on the top image. And you can actually see how there's 3 chimney stacks actually in this building. There's going to be 2 fireplaces for aesthetics inside, one in the lobby and one in the chapel, and then one will be mirrored by those to camouflage the crematory stack, which we have done successfully at our Liz Pike location as well. So that'd be on the far left.
Yeah, this is the north elevation. Again, the porte cochere in the front. Willow Street Pike is down here. These are the chimneys that were mentioned, but from the exterior, it looks just something like a building that's been added on to over time, much like other buildings in the area.
So the cremation equipment would be added onto the north side, which we feel is the more of the private side actually of the building, since it'll be facing the PP&L tower and kind of that corner of the property. And it also falls under the 2421 property.
I mentioned that this is the existing boundary of that property, the 2-acre expansion. As Riley will share, this is also the zoning boundary between commercial highway and office technology zones. We are in compliance with all the requirements for the commercial highway. However, in the office technology zone, I think when that was written, the intent was to create something perhaps more akin to Greenfield Industrial Park. So lots of green space, wide lots. We don't quite have the lot width that we're required to have under the office technology zone. We're required to have 300 feet. We have 248 feet. We're required to have a minimum of 3 acres. We have 2 3/4 acres combined. So again, just a little shy. And also in office technology, we are required to have 60% open space. This plan is showing approximately, 60% impervious coverage maximum. This is showing approximately 61%, so just over that threshold.
They have to come back to go to the zoning hearing
So if
board.
I could add to that, I think what the applicants are looking for tonight is just a little guidance in terms of how favorable the request for a variance for those items would be, as well as a potential rezoning. I think that's still.
Riley will speak to that next.
So, it did go before the planning commission, and that was kind of what they were expecting out of that meeting, just some sort of guidance either way before they jump right into it. I don't know that they received that, so we felt it made sense to come to the board to request.
And before you speak of zoning, and given this relatively straightforward nature of the project, is this something where you could support a combined preliminary final plan submission?
No, we've been trying to get away from that, just because from our perspective, it gives us a better chance to review the plan, look at the plan, and ultimately, at the end of the day, it keeps you from having to come back if something changes. So we're getting away from that at this point.
Getting away from the combined plan.
Combined, yeah, especially a project this size.
What are the questions?
That's my opinion. I defer to.
No,
the other
I think you're
supervisors
right.
too.
I mean, we've had over the years, many, many times where we've had the 2 plans, this is the preliminary and final, and every once in a while we get
Burned.
Yeah, yeah. So we're actually weaning ourselves off of that if we can do it.
I
Yeah.
think it would depend. I think the other thing that would play into that, at least from my perspective, would be is the number of waivers that would be requested as part of that. I mean, if it's a fairly straightforward project that doesn't require, many concessions on the township part, it's a little bit easier of a pill to swallow, I think, on our part, as opposed to, asking for a bunch of waivers, as well.
Yeah, at this point, we're not anticipating any. Of course, we haven't gotten into the really nitty-gritty engineering components.
The only thing I would say, John, that as I look at this plan, and I don't know whether this will be an issue or not, but the driveway coming off of the lease property, if that's intended to be an exit out of the Willow Street Pike, it's an over 90-degree turn, and I know it's existing, but that may create, I don't know whether, where you guys are at in conversation. I see that you're using TPD for the traffic, but that potentially could be an issue for you guys, as well as, I think PennDOT may have some issue with the driveway being aligned with the crossover between north and southbound. I don't know that to be fact. And the other thing is that driveway, the northbound driveway, when it comes out, are we into the stacking length of the intersection at that point, coming back from the red light? And I guess those are all the things that your traffic guy is going to look at, but they would be just, some quick comments I think that I would have relative to the plan.
And your comments are aligned with our thoughts as well.
Okay.
So we're waiting, as I said, to still have that initial conversation with PennDOT at this point. But they are engaged to assist with the highway occupancy permits that we'll need, both for closing the existing drive here and creating the new one, but also all the stormwater is going to an inlet within Willow Street Pike here. So we'll need to be addressing that. And then we're also anticipating that we'll need to bring gas service across from southbound 222, also necessitating an HOP. The traffic impact study will also get underway once we hopefully successfully complete the zoning phase of the project.
Thank you.
I think it's an excellent slice of property for the exposure that you're looking for. There's no question about it. In my mind. There are some of the issues that coming in and out of the parking lot. Maybe some screening, that's an easy one to take care of. But if you're looking for a yay or nay, I think we're on board as far as keep it going, I take it.
Yep.
Rick?
Yeah.
Bob?
Should I leave this here for your part of the?
You there, Bob?
Sure, that'd be helpful.
Yes.
Okay. Any questions or comments you want to make?
Not at this point, thank you.
You're welcome. Okay.
You have one community member.
You have any, Dee Dee?
No.
No. Do you have any, the gentleman in the back, you have a comment at all? You want to?
I'm listening.
Okay.
Sorry I didn't use the microphone.
It's all right, I heard it. Okay. I would be concerned about the traffic who would exiting the facility.
Yeah, I think that's one of our questions that we do have. And we're getting them in and out safely.
Can I say something about the traffic though?
Okay.
People, even when I built the other facility, I gotta say, I'm Charles Snyder, in Chadstad. But mostly, all the traffic that comes from a funeral is off-peak hours. So every time, I remember when I first built the one of Liz Pike, my accountant and then the former Cimarron Construction said, Chip, I'm so worried. I don't see any cars in your parking lot when I drive by at 7 o'clock in the morning to 8 o'clock. And then my accountant said, Chip, you better go out and buy a couple junkers and stick them in your parking lot because there's no one there. No one will know you do business. And I said, listen, most of our funerals would be 11 o'clock in the morning, maybe a viewing 10 to 11, off-peak hours. If you have a viewing or a funeral in the afternoon, it's 2 o'clock and we're going. We're missing them. And viewings, 7 o'clock at night after all prime. So worrying about traffic is really, it's all set for off-peak hours. And, people worry about all these cars. And it's usually just a slow flow. It's not a major leave. When somebody comes to a viewing, they come in, pay their respects and leave. And so what I've noticed and, over the years, the traffic we don't affect traffic as much as what people thought. Say, oh, they're so worried about traffic. So if you have any questions on that, thank you.
Thank you. Well, the nice thing about it is you're located on a two-lane northbound section. You would have to cross that to go south, but I would anticipate most of your traffic is going to go north, which would help a little bit, but not all of it. Okay? Anything you want? Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just gonna add, I know John alluded to it briefly, but the main reason we're here is to is to get your perception on the zoning issue in particular. So as John had mentioned, the 2421 property is 0.74 acres. It meets all the dimensional requirements in the commercial highway district. But the 2419 Willow Street Pike property, lot 2 on this plan, is in the OTR district. So when that's added on to lot 1, it'll be split zoned. And the issue that came up with the 2419 property is that there are some of the dimensional requirements that it doesn't meet. So it doesn't necessarily meet the impervious coverage requirements as shown on this proposed plan, the lot width requirements, and the minimum lot requirements as shown on the plan. So we were coming to you to kind of get a sense on whether the board would be willing to consider a certain approach to address the zoning issue. We were thinking our preferred approach would be a rezoning of this portion, 2419, to commercial highway, so that the combined tract is all one zone, commercial highway. But we would also, be willing, depending on the board's perception, to also prepare a text amendment, because as John had mentioned, it's written, the way the ordinance is written, it kind of looks more toward a different style of lot design than is what currently in the area. And then our third option would be to actually get variances from these requirements, but that would be the least preferred option. So I guess any kind of input you may have on those would be really helpful.
You're going to have to ask the variance man at the end there.
I'm the variance man.
Wow. Congratulations on your new title.
I'm usually a sort of anti-rezoning, but I mean, this tends to fit.
Yeah,
I
but
think.
this does.
So this would be a lot, you would have to do a lot of add-on plan as part of this, correct?
Yes.
We'll subdivide the 2 acres from the Violent Holdings property and then add that to 2421.
We feel that with the split zoning, like you said, it's kind of a prime target or a prime, candidate for the rezoning, just because it's difficult to enforce the split zoning. And I should mention that, as Chad had mentioned, the crematory equipment would be on the commercial highway side where it's permitted by special exception. So this isn't a use issue at all. It's just the dimensional requirements.
If a municipality is going to give you a hassle on doing that, some would. I just not going to.
Yeah, I think what I'm mulling over in my mind is whether or not you go through the rezoning process or whether we do a text amendment to fix it, which is cleaner, I think, for everyone.
Resistance,
Yeah, which is the cleanest for us as a township.
I would prefer rezoning opposed to a text amendment for this particular instance. We all know zoning needs
We have
great
a,
deal of updating, but for this lot in particular, given its location, I think it lends itself well to a rezone. Makes
we have a
sense.
comp plan coming up sometime,
Yes.
and we can add this in, and
Correct.
maybe it will be in the
The
rears.
OTR
I mean,
district.
fixing it in the rear, but,
Right.
okay. I guess
I'm fine with the rezoning.
if you're looking for a hassle from us, I don't,
Yeah.
The rezoning will go through
I hate to say you're not going to
the.
get one,
Does
but
go through the zoning
It
hearing?
goes through you.
Does go through us.
Yes.
Our sense from the planning commission, we didn't really get like a definite, but they didn't seem opposed, I should say, so.
yeah, I think that's what you're getting here, but maybe a little bit more.
Yeah,
Okay.
okay, no, that's
Probably a lot more.
Yeah, a lot more. Okay, I wasn't at that meeting, so, yeah.
great,
You're not seeing any heads going the wrong way before you, so.
okay.
I think it'll be done right, knowing the Sliders here and what they have other places. And nobody's knocking on the door for the OTR at this point, so.
Yeah, I think that, for me, I think that probably is the easiest, is just the rezoning. And I guess the selling, I wouldn't normally feel that way, but I think the selling point for me personally is the fact that by building footprint, it looks to me like about 75, maybe 80% of the building square footage is in the correct zoning. You're talking about a very small component to, that's in the wrong, in the OTR district, and I think that's the part that's kind of sells it, I think, for me, making it probably the cleanest.
I would just remind the board that we do need to be careful about how much detail and how much you talk about this, because it is a legal issue that is going to have to come back before the board, so I would just
Correct.
respectfully caution you as far as your comments.
She's our watchdog.
So in other words, she's kicking me under the desk right now. telling me to shut up.
No, I think you're still addressing the original question.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you're.
Okay?
Great, well, thank you all.
Okay.
We really appreciate it. I think that was everything, so.
All right, thanks. Thank you. Gentlemen, sir, are you okay with,
I'm okay. I would say the important thing here is location, location, location. They have location for the business around with the community. You know what I'm talking about.
thank you.
I'm with you.
We should have gotten his, do you want his name for the record? Yeah, we need your name and address for the record. We need that. Just,
Ivan Thomas.
okay.
Ivan Thomas. Ivan Thomas.
And your address?
101 Dorian Drive.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Thank you.
Would you like me to see if I can get Supervisor Moyer on the phone?
You can, yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, we can hang on for a while.
What's up, variance man?
I don't usually like those, but that fit the bill. It does kind of fit, yeah. It's how we do it. Yeah, that's the part.
It's, you know, it's in
Yeah.
He wasn't gonna say anything anyway with Barney Snyder.
Yeah, he's gonna recuse.
He was.
Yeah, he's gonna-
Hi, all right, hold on.
All right, good. So you need to go.
You still with us, Bob?
Yes, ma'am.
Randy, you there? Okay. Let me get,
This YouTube's pretty cool.
See you,
let
John.
me get the sheet.
Thank you.
You like that, Randy?
Doesn't have to look you.
I have it on up here too. I've been watching it.
Well, that makes us, you and me are the 13, one of 2 of the 13.
Yep.
Watching.
I think my wife's watching too.
Hey, thank you, everybody.
Well, thank
Appreciate
you.
your time.
TV's been able to avoid the camera.
Matt Sheehan says hello, Jeff.
All right, good stuff.
I think I mentioned Benchmark's gonna be the contractor.
Yeah, I do a ton of work with Benchmark. Yeah, good company.
Bobby Graham was one of my groomsmen.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I can tell you some stories about Bobby. I'm sure you can too.
Well, hey, thanks, guys.
Hi, Randy.
Good evening.
Okay, next, item number 3 actually is request for reduction of the letter of credit. We have 3 of them, and we can do one at a time, or we can take them all as a unit. It's Bottom Line Ag Supply, which you have in your notes. It's leaving a balance of $1,000. Grace Community Church would be leaving a balance of $3,000. Mill Creek Development Phase 4 would be leaving a balance of $7,500, and we can do one or all at the same time.
I think if we do one at a time, it's gonna be a lot cleaner.
That would be good.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to authorize a reduction of letter of credit for Bottom Line Ag. And release the amount of $2,000, leaving a balance of $1,000.
Supervisor Beers made the motion to leave the balance at $1,000. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Supervisor Moyer made the second. Any other comments from the board?
The other thing I'll say, Barry, is that seems like, I mean, that $1,000 isn't nothing.
Yeah, it doesn't
For the amount of stuff that they have to do yet. I mean, I know that seems inconsequential, but $1,000 doesn't really leave much not much skin in the game or incentive for them to complete the as-built work and closing out the NPDS. But personally, I'd like to see that be a little bit higher, but that's just my opinion.
We still
Is
have
it
funds.
allowed to like have a minimum? We say this every time on all these letter of credit rejections that we never feel like it's enough. I know is there a way to set it up where the minimum amount that must be kept in is like $5,000 or something like that, no matter what the deal?
I think that would be a little high. We maintain funds in escrow as well. So I don't know the number off the top of my head. But ELA's reviews, for instance, right now are being deducted from the escrow account separate from this. So I believe the remaining 1,000 is really just to review that NPDS once that's closed out. We could increase the escrow account if we wanted to.
But the escrow account's just really paying for the review fees from the.
Right, which is what I understand is all that's really left out of this. They've done the actual work. It's been.
Well, there's a number of as-built comments here
Mhm.
that I guess.
Which I understand it's all been done correctly. Our engineers have visited the site and they've confirmed that the work is complete. It's just updating, the plans themselves.
And your engineer, Chuck Haley, has said he is available to call if you need to do that.
I mean, that was just my comment. I guess I was thinking in my head, 1,500 is, I think, where I was kind of coming at in my head, but I mean, it's not the end all be all. That's just my opinion.
Well, that's my thought, and also a previous supervisor would have had the same
I was just
comment.
saying, Terry's down there.
Yeah.
Terry Coffins. Rob.
Do we have to release any of it pending the?
You don't have to. Or would you want to modify the amount?
Yeah, I think that's where my head was, is modifying them out and, giving them a $1,500 reduction and keep $1,500 in the account for right now.
Depends how Jeff feels, he can retract his motion.
Or amend it.
Or amend it, yep.
I'll amend my motion to release,
Second it.
to release the amount of $1,500, leaving a balance of $1,500.
Okay, and Randy seconded?
Yes.
Okay, motion was made by Supervisor Beers for $1,500 and a balance of 15, and it's been seconded by Supervisor Moyer. Any other discussion for this? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, motion carries 5-0 in favor of the $1,500 release. Grace Community Church is next, which is releasing the amount of $129,347.38 with a balance of $3,000. Almost is the same, but, it's.
I'm okay with it, unless someone else is. And wants to leave more.
Okay.
They actually have a lot left on their list, relatively to the one we just did.
Post-construction.
Well, I mean,
That comment under the post-construction stormwater management, that's more of an ongoing
Right.
requirement that they have to comply with their stormwater management and would not necessarily be tied to the financial security. We do have some similar as-built comments, but we also, under the construction, we have the compost filter sock below the wall needs to be removed. Professional certification of the block walls shall be provided as previously requested. So basically, they got to provide compaction testing requirements for the retaining wall. If you remember that plan up against the adjacent property, there was a retaining wall on that particular parcel.
That may be
That's-
done already.
Well, it would be, but it requires them to get from like American Testing or someone to certify that the
Right.
backfill was properly backfilled and compacted correctly. Sanctuary building. What would you like to see? Provide copies of the required NPDS critical stage inspections of the stormwater. Who was the licensed engineer on that? That was Harbor Engineering, wasn't it?
Yes.
DH Funk, I believe, was the site contractor.
I'm on the position where I feel like we sort of trust, the engineer prepares these reports and I hate to constantly second guess them.
Yeah.
I agree.
I think the amount is, again, a personal opinion, I think the amount is a little low, but I will go along with that. In any future reductions, I would want to see this list substantially cleaned up before any other reduction requests.
Okay.
Just out of curiosity, I think Chuck leaves 10% extra in it. Maybe we need to increase that percentage to Chuck, make it 15% or 20% or something.
Either that, Randy, or the other thing that we could do is in the future, we could have a specific line item that deals with the actual as-built, if that's a reoccurring thing, and add, put in an appropriate dollar value. If we don't have that in the financial security, maybe we should.
I believe that's included in the probable cost opinion with each development.
Okay.
I don't have this one in front of me in particular, but yes, and annually, when it's renewed, there is a 10% increase as well. And George and Chuck do factor in an additional 10% when they write these releases as well.
I do have comments from your engineer, Chuck Haley. He said that American Testing was out there and provided the tests. They just have to give a letter, and 10% is a requirement of the MPC.
Okay. All right, then was there a motion made?
Randy, did you make the motion, Randy?
I did not, but I'll make a motion that we reduce the letter of credit in the amount of $129,347.38, leaving a balance of $3,000 for Grace Community Church. Second.
Motion's been made, Supervisor Moyer, second by Supervisor Patterson. And further discussion from the board? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion as given signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion, I heard everybody, so motion carries 5-0. Mill Creek Phase 4, it's a little more left in the balance leaving $7,500.
I'd make a motion to reduce the escrow account for Mill Creek Phase 4 to $35,477.83, leaving a balance of $7,500.
Motion's been made by Supervisor Brennan. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second.
Supervisor Beers beat you out. All right, any other discussion? Any other discussion from the board? All those in favor of the balance of $7,500 for Mill Creek Phase 4 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Again, I heard everyone. Motion carries 5-0 in favor. Thank you. I think we do need to do something a little more balanced on these things, whether we get Chuck involved and come up with something. Because that's been a concern for a little while.
In terms of already balance, would you look at closer to 15 or 2,000 typically when we're coming down to the end?
Anything's better, probably what we can run it by us, we can talk about it. Okay. Next is the treasurer's report. on the monthly reports, and we have that in front of us.
Mr. Chairman, the memo that accompanies the financial statements for April show a solid financial position as of the end of April, with revenues increasing $396,000, expenses decreasing $83,000, with a net increase of $479,000 in our surplus. However, that said, I think we need to look ahead to May and the months remaining in this year to recognize that we're going to see significant declines in our revenue, probably both in our real estate tax, but more significantly in our earned income tax. And I would challenge the staff to continue to monitor the revenue, and if it appears that we need to rethink our budget for 2020, that we do so at the end of June.
Okay. Dee Dee's writing furiously, so she's got you, bud.
Oh my God.
Dee Dee, what do you think?
I agree. I think as we've talked about, we're expecting at least a 20% decrease in our earned income tax revenue, and that's going to hurt. So I agree with you. We are monitoring it consistently.
Okay.
Any other comments from the board? Do I hear a motion to accept the treasurer's report and a motion to pay the bills?
So moved.
Do I hear a second?
Second it.
Supervisor Beers made the motion, Supervisor Renneman a second. Any other discussion on the treasurer's report or Bob's comments? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Okay, motion carries 5-0 in favor of the report. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone.
James is already up at the mic, guys. He's
Yeah.
wants to get out of here.
Gotta keep it, make it happen here. You have my report. There's not a lot of big things on there. Since we had the crew split up, a lot of little things. So, but they all add up. And I would like to, my men and I would like to thank the board and Dee Dee before you leave for keeping us working. They do appreciate that, and they told me to say thank you, and Dee Dee keeping us safe so far. So we want to thank you guys, and it's from them too.
Thank you.
Because, you know, a lot of people, I just talked to a couple of people today down Hayward Heath. They lost their jobs. It's tough, very tough. So,
And some of them may not come back real quick,
right.
unfortunately.
So, and I had to bring that up to them, and they just, and yeah, we discussed this. So we want to thank you for extending your.
Well, I think Dee Dee and the staff have done a great job as far as keeping everything at bay. You walk in and not everybody's working at the same time, but it's all flowing. I don't know how the other guys see it, but it seemed to be working out well.
Yeah, we liked it, and yeah, we don't want to see it all the time, but we're getting things done.
Yeah.
So
Thanks, Jim.
I want to thank you. So
Anything else? Was it you sat the whole time for that? You sat here the whole time for this?
yeah,
You
I did for a couple of words.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Got a quick question for Jimmy.
Jim,
Is the retention basin over there at the square in Lampeter, is that working the way it should?
Right here in the middle of town of Lampeter?
Yeah.
Yes, it is. It's still a sediment basin. It will always have water and mud in it.
Okay.
And then when they have all the houses installed and done, and the landscaping done, then they'll go in there and clean all that mud and water out there, and then they'll put the amended soils and whatever has to go in there. And then it's going to be probably, you won't see any water in there, or very little.
Okay.
But it has to come up, I think it has to come up about a foot yet. but that's the way it's designed when they're constructing a house,
Thank you.
okay?
Any other questions? We're good. Thank you, James. Chief,
Good evening. Craziest thing happened today when I walked into the station this afternoon. A clown walked out and held the door open for me. It's weird. I don't know who it was, but it was a nice gesture.
A clown?
Yeah, I don't know who it was, but it was a nice gesture. There you go, thank you. It's a joke. Nice gesture. Come on. Come on. Come on. I know.
a
Randy
clown
had
is
to
a
mute-
nice gesture.
You know, I took your last dad joke home. I'm not taking this one home.
Randy had to mute the button on his phone because he was laughing, right, Randy?
Lucky for you, the phone was on mute, yeah.
I knew you'd appreciate
Yeah,
that.
you're a popular guy.
I am.
Yeah.
I should, go ahead.
That's Randy sending you jokes, isn't it?
I'm gonna, go ahead, unless you need me. Just gonna take this real quick.
No, that's more important to me. That's okay, go ahead.
Okay. I hate to do that, but.
Sure. Coincidentally, right when I come up, see how it is. Yeah, my report, just a couple things I want to point out. First of all, many of the municipalities, I'm sure you're probably aware that, are postponing National Night Out from August to October. So at this point, we are planning to do the same thing. You know, I have the concern that probably others have as well, is that if this coronavirus comes back, if it comes back in that time frame, but you know, we don't know what we don't know, obviously. But we'll probably do the same thing, so we'll postpone it to the first Tuesday in October, so 6th October.
Isn't it gonna be near the fair? Is that gonna detract from it a little bit?
Potentially, yeah. I mean, you know, you're talking probably like,
Fairs in September.
it's the end of September. Yeah,
About a week old.
so it'll be like 10 days away, yeah.
Yeah, might just get everybody out again.
Yeah, I mean, that's what the hope is. You know, we want to keep it, I don't know, quasi consistent with the rest of the county. I mean, it is supposed to be a national thing, obviously. There's no easy answer to it, like everything else that we're dealing with. But I think in an attempt to try to keep it somewhat consistent with the rest of the county, that's what we're gonna end up doing. Dr. Peer reached out to me and asked if how we would feel about a parade for the students, for the graduating seniors. So we're going to reach out to myself and Steve Eckernach from Strasburg. So we talked about it, and we're gonna move forward with that. The parade's gonna be, graduation's gonna be, you're probably aware of it, graduation's gonna be Friday, May 29. The parade's gonna be the 28th, Thursday, right before that. The parade, and I'll forgot to send you the route. I will send you a map of the route, probably the easiest thing. But it's gonna start at the high school and end the high school. It's gonna go Pioneer, or book the Pioneer to Strasburg Pike through the borough, come back in Village to Lampeter Road, over Beaver Valley Pike, Penn to Willow Street, back around Beaver Valley, Lampeter Village, and then back into school.
What kind of a parade?
Bus parade.
What?
Bus parade with students
Bus.
on the buses. Yeah. Yeah, I have a map. It is kind of,
It's very
We got
nice.
yeah, I mean, is it the same one you have?
Yes,
Okay.
just give you an idea.
So initially, we were talking cars. The concern with the cars is we're talking about like 250 cars. We can do with like 30 buses. So we thought that made more sense. So they'll put like 8 kids on a bus. So it'll be
8 kids on a bus.
Yeah. So it'll be us and Strasburg Borough PD will be staffing it, as well as the fire companies. We're hoping it'll be 5. Willow Street's already agreed. I'm assuming Lampeter's going to agree.
I would assume.
So. Yeah, I just talked to Sean today about it. He had off last week, so I just talked to him today. And then Grafton, Strasburg, Berlin, and Township will be participating in that as well. Any questions on the parade?
Nope.
Okay.
I think it's a good thing.
Yeah, I mean, you know, the kids got dealt kind of a bad hand. So we're trying to do whatever we can to make it something for them, to do something for them. You know, we talked about, Sergeant Schroeder and I talked about, we'll probably have maybe 10 buses and a cruiser, 10 buses and a cruiser. We're gonna put cruisers in the middle of the parade. So if we need to stop it to let cars go through, in the middle, not in the procession, but, you know, cross traffic or something, that we can do that, especially if there's emergency, because 30 buses is a fairly long procession. So we'll try to mitigate that somewhat by putting cruisers in the middle, but we want to keep that, you know, that procession as close to being straight as we possibly can, consistent as we possibly can.
You know of any other districts that are doing this, or is that his idea, or?
There are other districts that are doing similar type things.
Okay.
Yeah, we have once a week, we're actually having chief conference calls, and I asked last week, and different districts are doing different types of things for their students. You know, we're not overly unique in that we have more than one municipality in our school district, right? A lot of municipalities have that, a lot of school districts have that. So there's just a coordination effort, I think, for a lot of them. So, as you know, we were still dealing with well, you may not know, but the pedestrian that was struck on April 23rd, we're still dealing with that, still an investigation. And as you've seen by the numbers, our numbers are down considerably. With everything, our calls for service are down as well. The only thing that's really is rising is domestics. And again, this is just what we talked about in March and April. That's what the concern is, domestics, mental health type calls, because of everything. The new guy, Officer McLaughlin's coming along. What I hope to do is to be able to have the ceremonial swearing in June. That's what the hope is, assuming that we're back to normal. Yeah. I mean, that's what I'm saying. Just assuming we're back to normal, we'll do the ceremonial swearing in the June meeting. If not, then we'll push that to July. Did you have any, Roger Brown, did you have any questions about the parade, how it's going to, from the fire
Is
standpoint?
there gonna be something posted where people know, okay, they're gonna be coming by Land Peter at this time, around this time frame, people can get out and cheer and stuff like that? Is there like a map or something that's gonna be posted?
I'm sure the school district is gonna do it as well. We haven't had the final conversation with Dr. Peart yet. We plan on doing it, we being Econoc and I'm sorry, but I'm saying we plan on doing it this week. We're gonna put it on our social media, and I'm assuming the district's gonna do the same with theirs, and Econoc will do the same with Strasburg. Yeah, we plan on kicking it off at 7 o'clock. It should take about an hour. It's like 17 miles. But you know, hopefully we can kick it off as close to 7 o'clock as we can. Maybe it'll take an hour or so. You figure if we do between 15 and 20 miles an hour.
And is there by chance a rain makeup date, or we're not gonna worry about that?
We don't speak of that.
Doesn't rain.
Yeah, we don't have one at this point, and you know, from a totally selfish standpoint, Dr. Peart suggested, not his selfishness, mine, but he suggested the Tuesday and the Thursday. That Thursday's a double up day for us, so we have more cops working, which is why I wanted to Thursday. So the short answer to your question is that we're hoping there's no rain, because we have maximum staffing that day and allow us to put a number of cruisers out in the procession, as well as us being the cops having to staff some of the major intersections. We're going to use fire police with some intersections, but we're also going to have uniform officers at the bigger intersections, Peter Valley Pike, Lampeter Village, and stuff like that. So right now, as I stand here right now, I know of no rain date.
Any other questions? Good deal.
Thank you.
Chief.
Thanks, Chief.
Sorry I interrupted that.
That's all right.
Yeah, there was.
It was a nice
I had
gesture.
it-
Come
I
on,
had
that's a
to
good
take it for
joke.
a personal thing. Sorry.
I'll still use it.
Yeah, you will.
Community development, Amanda.
Sorry. I'm turning up here faster. All right, so you all have my report. Nothing major has occurred in the last month. What you brought up tonight, Smucker Welding, you will see that in the very near future. They have submitted for that special exception request. Along with that, it will be a subdivision as well. So that's going through the process now. Were there any questions on the report?
Any issues with the RV Mart or the Sunoco that you see coming up?
Not yet.
Okay.
RV Mart, I would like that to go through land development this time. I don't believe last time it went through what it should have. So that's going to go through the full process.
Okay.
So we'll see that soon. That actually, RV Mart, the Sunoco, as well as Smucker are all on the May Planning Commission agenda for first review. Yeah.
Okay.
As you may be aware, construction reopened May 1st for the area. My staff does not have a backlog. We've done actually very well with this shutdown. We've been able to work from home, work remotely. Kim and Kevin have their tablets and their phones. They're able to access permits and process everything from anywhere. So we're doing pretty well. I think considering the fact that we had that option during this has really saved us when construction opened, because we have been flooded with phone calls for inspections. But we're still on point. We're good. What I received today, just so you're all aware, East Lampeter Township had received a rezoning petition for the Rockvale outlets. I'm not sure what the fate of that property is now, considering the shutdown. The last I had heard, they had about 2 years left of remaining open. So I'm not sure now how that's changed, but the proposal is to basically create an overlay district to be used over specifically that property. It would allow for a mixed use. So still some retail, but they are looking at apartment buildings as well. Outside of that, I didn't have anything major to report. Okay.
Questions, guys, Randy, Bob? No? Okay.
No, no questions.
Thank you.
Thank you. Township, thank you, Bob. Township manager report.
Just a couple of things.
Thanks.
You do have 2 purchase orders on the agenda later this evening to take a look at for the park. What Amanda is passing out is just a hard copy of emails that I had sent you over the weekend in regards to the state shutdown and what the county has been doing, the commissioners as well as the DA. I also wanted to let you know that I am writing a pandemic emergency management document that will be included in our emergency operations plan. You know, we've worked on the emergency operations plan a couple of times since I've been here. And a lot of the focus was on flooding, for, you know, an emergency that we would have here and would likely have here. I honestly have to say, I don't know that any of us would have ever predicted a pandemic. So not that our operations plan doesn't address that to some extent already, but I am, like I said, I am working on a document to supplement that for our emergency operations plan, and will also be here in the files for anybody that might use it after I'm gone. I have a draft. The draft has been reviewed by our labor attorney because there are some labor issues involved in it. I have the emergency management coordinator reviewing it, and all of the department heads will get it, at some point to review it as well. So it's still a work in progress, but, we will get that done.
So we don't have to rewrite the book then?
No, it will just be a supplement. I
Okay.
did, as a follow-up, to your report, I did want to tell you just some interesting numbers. As you know, I guess it was, 2017, we started taking trash payments online. People were able to go online and pay their bill. And, in 2017, the amount, that was processed that year was almost $7,400. And so far this year, it's been almost $74,000 that has been processed online. Now, I know a lot of it has to do with the pandemic, but it has continually increased. We saw that over the years, which is, I think is a good thing. I think the residents obviously like it, and it's a nice service for them. If you have any questions for me in regards to my report or what is happening at the county level with, the letter to the governor, the CARES $95 million, amount that was received by Lancaster County, I was on a couple of phone calls today. If you have any questions, I will try to answer questions that you have about that.
What's our cut?
Well, what I did find out today, which I was not aware of, and I hadn't even had a chance to talk to the department heads about this yet, but we had been preparing all along to submit any extra expenses that we had related strictly to the coronavirus. We had been preparing to submit those to PEMA, Pennsylvania Emergency Management, and FEMA, Federal Emergency Management. What I found out late this afternoon was that probably will not be the process that we will take, because there were actually 7 counties in the state of Pennsylvania that got the CARES money, and it was based on population, as I understand it, 7 counties with over 500,000 in residents. So what we were told this afternoon was that those expenses that we were going to submit to PEMA and FEMA will now be submitted through this CARES package to the county. So basically,
Does the county already have the money?
county already has the money.
Yeah.
County got the money last week. It's already here, it's in the account, and the feds and the state are basically telling the county at this point, look, you have the 95 million, you need to use that in your county for those related expenses. So I will be talking to staff. Like I said, did not have a chance to, as you know, when you left, I was on the phone with the door closed. So that's not a big deal. We don't have a huge amount of expenses related to this coronavirus to begin with. We've been tracking it, Vicky's been tracking it in the accounting system. So this is not a huge switch for us to make, and we'll just follow the guidelines from the county.
It's always nice to have a manager that used to work at the county office, you know? We'll see how that pulls, but
Yeah.
We already submitted ours to the DA's office.
That may not,
Yeah.
that, depending on where the funds are coming from, it might change.
Right.
Yeah.
We were requested to submit it to them, so we submitted it through them.
Right,
We'll see-
that was
we'll see what
before
happens.
this,
Mhm.
so we'll see what happens. But either way, we'll be able to submit it and, hopefully get the funds back. And whatever is not used, by the end of this year must be returned to the federal government. Of the 95 million that the county got.
you have any comments on the West Hempfield letter?
No.
Or East Donovan?
Okay,
Do we have any comments on the West, I mean, we know that West Hempfield and East Donovan sent letters. Is it something that we as supervisors want to address in one way or another?
I prefer to stay out of it. Agree.
agreed.
The one thing that I
Disagree.
will, the one,
Okay, I know.
I'm already outvoted, just put my vote in.
If it wouldn't be at the county level that they made their input, I'd say, maybe, but,
The only question I have to that would be, is by us not taking a position one way or the other, does it obligate our police department
I don't think
to
so.
take a position that we don't want them to take?
No, as far from an enforcement standpoint,
Right. Like, are you required as an oath of performing the duty of a police officer, you're required under oath to uphold the law?
The DA level.
we are. And without getting really deep into it, laws that are, we're required to uphold laws that are passed by the legislative branch, and supported by the judiciary committee, judiciary branch, right? This is an order that's been created. It's changed several times, making it virtually impossible for us to enforce. And then the district attorney came out and said that she polled every agency in the county and asking how many citations were reissued, and she got the same response from everybody. Yeah. She then, took the stance that she wasn't gonna support any prosecution, so we can follow that lead.
And to answer your question, Supervisor Beers, that was addressed on the call I was on this afternoon. And Commissioner D'Agostino did make the comment that although they appreciate the support and they, appreciate hearing that they don't need anything from the municipalities at this point. The county has taken the action and that the municipalities don't need to do anything.
Yeah, not just from the support of the commissioners and the elected officials that wrote the letter, there were a lot of them on there, but I see it as a measure of support for the businesses in the community.
Well, it's not that, but the problem is, the state could then revoke licenses, they're also talking about not providing insurance if there's incidents that occur, if they've been working when they're not supposed to. So if we support something which actually ends up being worse for our residents because we don't have all the facts, that puts us in a bad position. I think you got a political thing going on, and it's between state, county, and I don't think we should take a position that inadvertently, you may not agree with it, I may not agree with it, but if the restaurant down the street opens up, somebody gets sick, and the state won't allow their insurance to apply because they weren't allowed to be open, then did we give them bad advice? And right now, the constitutional issue is being addressed at the Supreme Court. And until that comes down, we really don't know what is and what is not allowed to be done. So again, there's too many legal issues that are going to go on here that we just shouldn't get involved in.
I'm outvoted.
you have the last word, I guess.
Respectfully disagree, but I'm outvoted, so.
Okay. All right. Any more in your report, Dee Dee? You're finished?
No, unless you have any.
We want to move on?
I'm fine, yeah.
Okay, sorry. All right. Next is Township Administration matters to authorize purchase orders for the Village Park Improvement Project for George Ely, is that associates? And also Sports Field Specialties, and both of those are in front of you.
Yes, you should have those with a letter from Chuck Haley, with full explanations of what they are for and the reason for the purchase.
Again, we can do these singularly, or because they are for the park, we can do them together, however you gentlemen want to do it.
I'm fine doing them together.
Everybody else?
Yeah, it's fine.
Okay, we can do them together. I hear a motion for the purchase. It's $43.71 for George Ely for the bollards, and the Sports Field Specialties is $53,925.
Patterson moves.
Okay. Motion's been made by Supervisor Patterson. Second.
Second.
Supervisor Moyer made the second. Any other discussion?
I do have a question. I mean, we're authorizing these two purchase orders. is it our intent to just go ahead and order this stuff now? Or are we just establishing that when we're ready to buy this stuff, that these are the two vendors we're gonna buy it from? I guess where my head is in the conversation that we just had here a little bit ago, that we're expecting our revenues to go down 20%, and there's a big portion of money that the township's on the hook here for related to this village park.
There is no immediate action that has to be taken. As you know, I'm having a meeting next week with the two co-chairs of the park capital campaign, which I think some decisions will be made about moving forward. So this is just the board authorizing the purchases when the time comes. We do not have to purchase them tomorrow.
When the time comes, when they're needed. Comfortable with that? Okay. Motion's been made and seconded. Any further discussion? All
Just
those-
one quick question. It looked like the shipping address was the fencing place. Is that the way it should be? On that one invoice, they were shipping it to the place we, I guess, purchased the fencing and stuff from.
Yeah,
Well,
I
they're the
think
ones-
they own the installation, Randy. As part of their
okay, that's what it
contract,
was.
they own the installation, but we're furnishing the material, so I'm guessing, I'm surmising, at least with some of the sleeving that's in there, that would make sense. But it's probably
Yeah.
a bit more secure having it delivered there than here, so.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, we usually do that too, Randy. If it's a decent sized order, even some small ones, we bring it in, house it, and then when the customer says, hey, my conveyor's built, I'm ready for the belt, then we take it over, even though we've had it for 3 weeks or a month. You know,
Okay.
that's sort of normal, I think, but, okay? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? None, hearing none, motion carries 5-0 for the two. Anything else before we close it up?
Public comment again, if there is any.
Public comment.
And I have been monitoring the email, and I have not received any public comment through the email. And nothing on the YouTube.
All right. Motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Thank you.
Adjourned.
Be it said that Barry dismissed the motion before 8:30. Wow.
Barely.
This is like,
So I missed it. Did the Lloyd King get pulled?
yes, it was just